What's going on, Philadelphia? You're tuned into the Down Money Show, where if you're talking real estate, you're talking money down, you're talking down money. And I'm your host with the most, Ransford. Philadelphia, got something great for you guys today. Came out here with one of Philadelphia's great, a legend, Tony Luke. Tony, how you doing today, man?
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too, man. Glad you're able to meet with me.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, man. So, in-home studio, that's where we're at right now.
We're in my home studio. Yeah, I do all of my songwriting in here.
And how long have you been writing music?
Oh, God, since 1985.
Wow, that's a long time. And that's interesting because a lot of people don't know that you write music.
Yeah, I was a musician since I was a teenager. In fact, the one thing I'm really proud of is I am part of the original graduating class from creative and performing arts in Philadelphia.
Hey,
so
nice.
they call us the originals. And I mean, a lot of great, Quest came from there. Like a lot of great people graduated from that school. And Quest is just one of many. Boys to Men, it was, and I go on and on and on and on. And it was an amazing experience. It really changed my view of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it kind of saved me at the time. I was from South Philly, and at that year, like it was the 70s when I, went to school.
Yeah.
And it was very, almost like horse blinders. It's like you only see what's in front of you. You only trust and you only hang out with the people in the, 4 or 5 block radius. And then that school opened up the world to me. Like it just made me see people of all races and all religions and all different, everyone had different ideas, and it was amazing, and it was creative. It was the best, one of the best things that have ever happened to me.
Wow, and who got you into that school?
You had to audition.
Wow, you auditioned. What did you do?
Audition. I sang and I did some dramatic pieces, and you had to do dance too, which was not a big thing with me, but you had to do all 3.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly how many, but I know there were thousands of kids, or at least over 1,000 that auditioned, and I think they only picked 200, or again, I don't know the actual numbers, but it wasn't a very large amount, and I didn't think I had a shot. But when I got the call, I was blown away, and because I had, I was in Newman prior, and then I was a very physical kid, and I got thrown out of Newman. So at 15, I was working because I wasn't in high school. I had gotten thrown out of Bishop Newman. And there was a paper article saying that this new school they were opening up, Creative and Performing Arts, was going to be, and I always loved music and I loved acting. I always knew from a kid that I wanted to be some type of entertainer. Like I wanted to contribute creatively to something because I like to sketch as well. So.
Black and white.
Yeah, just pencil.
Okay.
And I'm not great at it. I'm really not. I'm not a great artist, but I can draw a little bit.
Okay.
But I knew it had to be creative means for me, which we'll play later on with food, because food to me is also a creative means.
That's a creative outlet.
So they kind of went hand in hand. But music, I worked with so many people in the 80s, and I got my first spec record deal with A&M Records in 1985. And,
wow.
And Tony Luke's opened in 1992, February 3rd.
But before that, you started hustling a little bit, doing food trucks.
My dad had food trucks on 4th and Mars, and I did that a little bit. I also had a restaurant called Lucidonio's, which was back then it was a pretty cool concept that no one was doing. So I would cook the food and you would order it and you would get a complete meal. So it would come in a box. So if you ordered Italian food, let's say you ordered veal parmesan, it would come as a dish, then you'd have a side salad and a dessert and a soup and a vegetable, and we would deliver it right to your house.
So you were the first Blue Apron.
I don't know about that, but we did that as well. And then my father said, "Look, man, I really want to do something as a family, me, you, and your brother." And I want to do sandwiches. My father would make roast pork and roast beef for parties, and people would go nuts. They loved it. And my father was an incredible worker. Like, the man just constantly worked. Like he was, supporting his family was the number one priority with him. He worked 2 jobs, and I would barely see him when we were growing up. And a little bit of trivia, which people don't know. So that building was built. Tony Luke's, the original location, was built from the ground up, like literally from the ground up.
Wow, so you guys got it as just a plot.
Well, we knocked down what was, actually I think it was just a plot. So we had to do a foundation, but my dad did all of the work. Like, he knew carpentry, he knew plumbing, he knew everything. And I am not good with I'm more creative on that end, but not when it comes to building.
Yeah.
And I remember it was so hot in the summer, because he had no money, so he would build, then he would stop, and he would build, he'd make money, and he would build, he would go to work and build. So it was a lot for him, and we all did it. My brother was in there pitching, I was in there pitching, everyone was working. We were working as a family to get it up, and a lunch truck came to feed us. And I remember going to the truck, and I heard this very faint sound, Anthony, Anthony, Anthony. I'm like, where's that coming from? It's like, Anthony, Anthony. And I go around the back, and my father's laid out on the floor. And I remember picking him up, putting him in the truck, and driving him to the hospital. His blood pressure was so high, he was like, minutes away from a massive stroke, because he had done so much work, and it was so hot, and we had to lay all this concrete down.
Wow.
And then we started it, and no one knew who we were. We were, and we didn't sell cheesesteaks.
Yeah, yeah.
We did not sell. We sold roast pork, chicken cutlet Italians, pepper and eggs, like Italian sandwiches. But then everyone that would come to the window would be like, "Why don't you sell cheesesteaks? Sell cheesesteaks." And I remember my father would always say to me and my brother, "Don't ever make anything that you wouldn't want to eat yourself." And if someone dropped a roll on the floor, it went in the trash. Like, we were very diligent, about that. And
the attention to detail.
Yeah, and it was, people came because we took names. We didn't give people a number. We took a name. We wanted to, and let me tell you something. In the beginning, in South Philly, the last thing you want to do is ask anyone for their name. Like, I remember guys would come to the window, people come and go, "Name? What do you want to need my name for?" I'm like, "Well, I got to call the order." "Well, I'm not giving you my name." I'm like, "Well, today you'll be Bob. If I yell out Bob, it's your order." And then I would yell, "Bob, Bob, Bob." And I'd point to the guy and go, "Your food, my name ain't Bob." I go, "I know, but you wouldn't give me your name." And it was. Dude,
what you're saying, what you're not.
Yeah, like people were very defensive about giving any information out. And that was South Philly. And, we worked hard. And I went on every radio show that I could and every TV show that I could. And, let me tell you something. People think Front and Oregon is a great location. It was not when we got it. No one was going down there, only truckers. Like, it was not what it is today. So getting people to come over, and it was the perfect combination.
So you were the anchor store of that area, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And it really was the perfect scenario. You had my father, who was dedicated to quality and that, the old school recipes and getting it done. My brother, an incredible worker. Like, my brother was in there every day doing what he did. And to be honest, that was never my thing. My thing was going out there, talking to the people, going to radio stations, kind of getting them to say, "Hey, look at us over here." Like, come down from 9th Street or come down from Broad Street or wherever you are and check this out. And the food was good.
Yeah.
So giving them the hype to get them there, you can get them there, but you got to keep them.
Exactly.
And the food was good. And I got lucky. I don't know. I feel very comfortable in front of a camera or in front of a microphone or talking to people. And the TV shows started coming. And then, I started doing them. And then we did Man vs. Food. And then all of these things were just pumping up the reputation of this spot that no one knew of, Tony Luke's. And it grew. And, I always say this, because, people talk about, I'm not saying nobody doesn't know, but, there's a riff in the family today. But I will say this till the day I die. Tony Luke's would never have been successful if it was only owned by me or only owned by my brother or only owned by my father. The magic was 3 people were great at what they did in their lane. And that was a magic recipe. And it made it work for a very long time. And I am forever grateful that we as a family had the opportunity to do that. And it just worked. And we became a staple in Philadelphia. And it was so difficult because all growing up, all you heard was Pat's and Gino's and Jim's, Pat's and Gino's and Jim's. And then when I started hearing Pat's, Gino's, Jim's, Tony Luke's, Pat's, Gino's, and Tony Luke's, I'm like, well, we kind of broke through what people have been trying to do forever. But it was a lot of work, and I was everywhere trying to get the name. Every goofy idea, and I did those stupid when I did the commercials. I remember going to, I think it was Prism. That's how far back I'm going. And I told them the idea for the commercial. And they were like, well, who's going to write it? I'm like, well, I am. Well, who's going to direct it? I'm like, well, I am. They're like, no, that's not how it works. We do shots of you making food. I'm like, no, I don't want to show any food. They're like, what do you mean I don't want to show food? It's a food place. I'm like, nah. I want people talking about Tony Luke's when they're not hungry. I don't want them to think about Tony Luke's when they're hungry. I want to make commercials that either people go, that is hilarious and brilliant, or that is stupid and the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But
either way
you're talking about it. If you're at work, you go, do you see that dumb commercial that Tony Luke's made? Him running around in a prison outfit, trying to get the Tony Luke's. And it worked. And as much as the TV, the cable community was saying, no, you can't, I literally found out later, and this is God's honest truth, they were using my commercials to show people how to think out of the box.
Yeah, agreed. So now, just to touch on that a little bit, online, they call you a little bit of a marketing genius.
I am not a you know what it is? I love marketing. Like, I think some of the biggest mistakes that years ago people made was they would concentrate so much on the product, which you need to, believe me when I tell you, but they looked at marketing as an afterthought. And it's kind of an old school way of thinking. It's like word of mouth. And look, does word of mouth work? Absolutely. It
100%.
Absolutely works. But it takes years, sometimes decades, to get to where you need to be. But if you've got a great product and you've got someone who knows how to get attention and not in the normal way. I had a buddy of mine put on an ostrich outfit and run down Broad Street and hit all the radio stations. We were selling ostrich burgers at the time.
Wait, ostrich burgers?
Yeah, and it was really, really good. But here was the problem. I'll tell you what killed that. An ostrich is not poultry.
What is an ostrich?
So you treat it like red meat. So you can't, ostrich is very dry. Like if you cook it completely through, it's like sawdust. You can't eat it. So ostrich has to be rare. But ostrich, when you say ostrich, they think of a big bird. And they go, well, I can't eat it medium rare or rare because you'll get sick if you eat rare chicken. I'm like, no, it's a red meat. It's not poultry. And you can eat it rare. Like, in fact, you have to eat it rare. Ostrich steaks are eaten rare. They don't eat rare chicken breast. So that people were afraid, they didn't get it, didn't understand it, and it didn't last very long. But that was my point. It was like, my thing was, how do I do the outrageous and get people's attention? How can I make Tony Luke's be on the mouth of everyone? And then when Food Network came calling, and I start doing the shows with Adam Richman and Bobby Flay and Dinner Impossible, and I start doing all these things, Tony Luke started to become a destination, And again, I will say this 1,000 times, if it was not for the dedication of my father and my brother that kept that place running and kept that food going out as good as it went out, it would have died on the vine. It didn't matter how much marketing I did. I could get 10,000 people to go there. If the food is terrible and they're not up on the quality and what they're supposed to be doing to get people to come back, they won't come back.
Actually, it probably would have died a lot faster because more people would have went there and the word would have got out.
And then you're done, right? Normally,
quicker.
If you don't, and I mean, I've never met anyone that has ever worked harder than my father and my brother. And I say that with my right hand to God in all sincerity. I mean, dedicated and working, and trying to make the best product. And I always believed do what you do best. And for me, it was getting attention, and then I wind up getting a TV series, co-hosting a TV series of my own called Frankenfood.
And how was that? That
was playing to millions of people. There were billboards in Times Square. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is great for the brand. It's great for the company. We had started franchising already, but here's the thing, which is really strange. So we would do all this publicity, but everything I did was at the Front Street store. So Front Street was getting the bulk of the business that we were doing, on television and everything, because that's where I was doing.
Well, that's the Philly staple.
Right, that's the Philly staple. So the brand just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I kept doing more and more, and then that led into feature films, and then it led into music, and it was something that no matter how bad the rift is now, I want to make this clear to the public, and I'm looking right at the camera. I love my brother. I love my father. I always will. I respect them more than I've ever respected anyone in my entire life. There's rumors on this end, there's rumors on that end, and we had a conversation earlier. And I just want to say, it's a family thing, and if you don't understand what's going on, try not to get involved, because you hear one story from one person and you hear another story from another person, and you're kind of going on just what you're hearing, usually by third party. And when people are angry, they say things.
Just like any family, any person
say things that are angry. But I could not respect them more, and I love them unbelievably, and I always will. No dad, no brother, no Tony Luke Jr. There really isn't a Tony. I mean, it literally was the combination of all three that got it done. It took it from this. I mean, think about it.
The dream team.
Yeah, I mean, and it worked, and it worked. When the pandemic hit, people were hesitant to go out.
Figuring out new ways to get the food out there.
And then people worried about, they're looking, you don't have gloves on, and did someone just sneeze or cough while they were making my cheesesteak?
Yeah.
Do they have COVID? And so working with a great team, and I mean a great team, Rastelli's Food Groups is my partner.
And do you guys deliver?
They deliver through mail order.
Okay.
Yeah, like through the website. Rastelli Foods and John Moser. Rastelli and his team are incredible. John Moser and his team are unbelievable. Like, they really helped me and Ray continue to take it to the next level, to continue to improve. See, that was my thing.
Yeah.
My thing is, I tell people, never put anyone down that makes a mistake or fails, because it's all of those failures that lead you to that success.
Agreed.
You have to
understand. Know how to lose first.
Exactly.
So wait, let me ask you a question here. How close is the frozen cheesesteak to the actual cheesesteak?
Okay, so there's a couple ways that you can grade this. Okay. So obviously,
break it down for us.
Yeah.
You're the cheesesteak.
Yeah,
cheesesteak
obviously.
Man now.
I mean, obviously, if I take a roll and I create a steak on the grill, and the way Tony Luke's does it is we don't do it on a very high heat. We do it at a very low heat.
Nice.
It takes a lot longer, so it doesn't char the steak. It actually gets all the juices to come out of the steak, and you never salt the steak until you're ready to put it on the sandwich, because salt will draw it out. You salt a fat steak, a thick steak, because you want to char it, and then but you don't want to char a thin steak because you're drying it up. So now when I pick that up with all that juice, that fresh juice, and I lay it on there, and it's right there, and it's outstanding. The problem with a frozen food is it never comes right. The bread either gets funky, and then the steak is dry. So it took us trial and error, like 4 years, literally 4 years of going over and over again. And I think we finally found the spot. So if you asked me, flavor-wise, because I'm always brutally honest.
Okay.
from 0 to 100, flavor wise.
0 to 100. Let's go 1 to 10. At 1 to 20. 1 to 20 is pretty legit.
If we're doing 1 to 10, it's an 8.5.
8.5.
Maybe 9 if you're used to something.
Okay.
Okay, I'm never going to give it a 10 because anybody would say something that's made right in front of you is, going to be. But then again, I've had steaks made in front of me that I've gone places to eat, and the frozen cheesesteak was better. Someone actually entered the frozen cheesesteak in a cheesesteak contest and won.
Really?
And all they did was stick it in the oven and won. So, and you're going to taste it yourself today. So you're getting a roll coming right out of the oven. So it's hot, it's crunchy on the outside, it's soft. The meat inside is juicy, the cheese is melted, and it's right there in your freezer. You take it out, you thaw it out overnight till it's completely thawed in the oven, 25 minutes at 350, and you don't have to dry. So this is what I mean by how do you want to score it. If you live, especially if you live in South Philly, you got to get out of you got to either take an Uber, or you got to get rid of your parking space that you've tried to find for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Drive to the store, use the gas that's $4 something a gallon now, and then buy the food, wrap it. If you're not going to eat it there, if you're buying for food for the home, now you got to put it in the bag. And I don't care who you are, I'm telling you, it's physics. When you wrap it sandwich that's hot and you put it in the bag, it is going to get soggy. That's just physics. There's no way to keep it you can't do it. So now by the time they drive back home, run around looking for a parking spot, come in, I guarantee you the frozen cheesesteak is better.
Wow, okay. That's high standards right there.
It's better than with all of that. Now, not when you eat it right at the place. I'm telling you it's better. And I'm telling you, if we had people on a grill, this is how much I will tell you. We had people on a grill making steaks, and then I was putting them in the oven behind the wall and serving you that. If you didn't know that was coming out of the oven, you would never come to me and go, "Oh man, Dad ate this." You would never do it.
Wow. What's your idea of a traditional cheese?
It's cheese, meat, and a roll.
Cheese, meat, and what cheese do you go with?
Well, I'm not I don't dislike whiz, but if you pinned me down,
You go American.
American or provolone.
Provolone.
American. Well, I'm Italian, so the more of me would go provolone.
Sharp.
No, I would go mild for a cheesesteak. I would go sharp for a pork, but mild on a cheesesteak because it's the same reason why I don't like putting ketchup on a cheesesteak. A cheesesteak should be able to stand on its own. Now, if you love ketchup, put ketchup. If you love mayo, put mayo. But if you have to put ketchup or you have to put mayo, that's a different story.
See, now the mayo thing, that's something new that's been kind of bubbling up. People go in mayo, ketchup, and like a whiz.
Yeah, well, they'll mix and match. Now, you can't talk to me about mayo because I'm incredibly biased. I literally, and this is going to make everyone watching go, "Oh, he did not just say that." I literally could eat mayo like pudding.
Jesus.
Like,
man.
I love mayo. Like, I even did a TikTok between Hellman's and, oh God, why am I drawing a blank? Duke's. Hellman's and Duke's mayo. Because that's kind of the big rivalry.
Yeah.
And in the conclusion was, I prefer Duke's on like potato salad and tuna salad because it's very rich. It's higher in egg yolks. It's thicker. But I do prefer Hellman's slightly on a sandwich. So, but they're both incredibly good. I mean, it's hard to get Duke's here, so I always usually use Hellman's. And now I've been making my own mayo, to be honest.
You make your own mayo.
Yeah, it's so simple to make mayonnaise, and it's so much cheaper than buying it. And it holds 2 weeks in a refrigerator, and then I can add and infuse anything I want in it. But I mean, I'm really proud of this frozen food line. And here's the other thing you have to think of: what are we running into today? We're having a lot of trouble getting people to work. Employees are closing down. I went to a diner I always go to, and it's open 3 days a week, and they close at like 3 in the afternoon. I'm like, "What are you talking about? You're open till 2 in the morning." He goes, "No, we cannot get shifts to fill this."
Wow. As we're talking through this, you're selling, man. Clearly, you know a lot about marketing. Clearly, getting this product out there to the masses. In a good way, you had a lot of hand on that.
Marketing is what I did. I mean, that's marketing, pushing the name, getting in front of the cameras, getting people to know who Tony Luke's was and what Tony Luke's is now, and the frozen food line is what I enjoy doing. I mean, I think of ideas and I think of ways to do it and how to get people engaged in what I'm doing. But I will tell you my biggest downfall.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot market anything for no amount of money that I don't believe in. And it kind of hurt me because I did have people come to me and go, Tony, would you do marketing for my company? Would you come in and would you do something to help us get off the ground? And if I didn't, not that I didn't like the product, if I didn't get moved by the product or what they were doing, it didn't matter what amount of money they would offer me, I couldn't do it.
So what was the most creative marketing idea you believe you've had?
I really believe we changed the whole format for advertising when we did those commercials. They were so different. There was no food in them. And it was like, Forrest Luke and, Jailbreak. And one of the biggest things that actually won an award was we didn't have the kind of money to hire a cartoonist. So, and I believe Mike, forgive me, it's been so many years. I believe his name was Mike. I'm trying to remember his last name. And if it isn't, Michael, and you see this, I truly apologize from the bottom of my heart. I'll be 61 years old and my mind is not what it used to be. So
61, looking good.
So I said, I have this idea. And he said, what is it? I'm like, I have this idea of a cartoon, like an old school cartoon, where there's a secret agent, we'll call him 00 Luke. And he has the recipe for the roast pork. But there's a mad scientist named Dr. Sal Manila who wants to steal this recipe. And he's got these ninjas with him. And it was this whole, I don't even know if it would be politically correct now because they had all these little people that were fighting, like that would come out and do the shit. And it was never meant to be anything. It was a cartoon. And that was kind of like the whole cartoon thing, that there were these smaller people that were beating up these giant, you know what I mean? Because we were in the right. So that was the whole concept. We were in the right and we were fighting these ninjas and then he didn't get the recipe and it was like,